Alright guys, Limit Fisherman here, and we're here with Timmy Horton at the Bass Pro Shops in Macon. We're going to talk to him a little bit about some of the things that he's getting ready for the new season and some preferences so you guys can maybe learn a little something out there. Be sure to check out the Bass College where some of this stuff's going to go up. It's a great site to do some stuff with and learn about your fishing. Let's get into it. I got a question for you. What was the evolution of your tournament fishing? How did you start, and what decision did you make to move up, not only from a marketing standpoint, but just from fishing and different tournament trails and stuff? What did you start out, and what was the evolution like?
You know, when I got out of college, which was in the mid-90s, I started competing on local events and statewide events, and really just grew it from there. And was very fortunate, had some success early on. I was also a fishing guide on the local lakes there on Pickwick and Wilson Lake. And I was able to do that by setting my schedule and go fish tournaments when I wanted to. So that was kind of the strategy I had at the beginning of my career.
Was guiding a big part for you? Because personally for me, I just see a lot of pressure in something like that, because there's a lot of guides out there now.
Right.
And a lot of it's location too, part of the country, certain lakes. There's a lot of pressure there. How was that like for you?
Yeah, to me the biggest part about guiding was the education of learning fishing more, because you're out there every day and you learn how fish move throughout the seasons and how they relate to cover, and that was the big part of me that guiding was a big help.
All right, thank you. Let's see. This time of year, you're going to see a lot of cold weather, and you might see some cold rains a lot in February. What's some good rain weather and cold gear that you like to wear if it's raining and cold at the same time?
Yeah, I wear the Bass Pro stuff, the 100-mile-an-hour gear, also the Pro Qualifier gear. Bass Pro's rain suits are second to none. They're phenomenal. And that's some of the stuff I do. And I think it's important to layer your clothes this time of year, because you may have mornings where it's in the mid-20s, but it might get up into the mid-50s, so that way you can kind of scale down on what you wear and remain comfortable all day long.
Okay, and what about gloves? You got to have somewhere you can feel the bite, you can fish the way you need to, and not only fish slow, but fish reaction baits if you need to. And if it's cold or raining, you need to be comfortable at the same time. You got any?
I would I wear some of the neoprene stuff, but really in using gloves, it's good to have 4 or 5 pair that you keep in the boat that you can change out as the day goes on, because any of them are going to get wet, and when your hands get wet, that's when they really get cold. But that's some of the tips that I would give. And also hot hands are important, as you're going, running your boat from one point to the next, you can stick your hand in your pockets where you have some hot hands and really warm them up. So.
Okay, and I got a question. Since you're with Minn Kota, have you looked into any of the iPilot stuff? Has that caught your interest, or any of the interest of the pros? I see some people, really getting into it. It's pretty neat technology.
Yeah, it is. I think with my aspect, I get to where I like what I'm using, with that 101 maximum, and it's just something I'm comfortable with. So, and it's been so reliable for me that's what I've used. But that technology is really gaining ground.
It is. You ever see it making into mainstream Elite Series events and stuff?
Yeah, I see it could. I think technology and the advancement of everything that you see on a bass boat. I know our new Nitro Z9s have got those cooling systems in the live wells this year, and there's just so many things that are advancing every year that comes out that enhances what we do.
Sounds good. I got a question about Alabama rig. What is your jig head of choice? There's a lot of different ones, different brands. I've seen the Bass Pro. You're using a lot of them. You want to think about value too, not only the hook gap and the hook size and the hook diameter. There's a lot of things.
I use on the umbrella rigs that I fish with, and that flash mob has really been hot at home on the Tennessee River. I use the Bass Pro heads, that we have here. And I'll use anywhere from an 1/8 ounce up to a 1/2 ounce, depending on what I've got on there. Usually the bigger heads are when I'm using like a money minnow and when I'm using a grub. But the big thing on that is a good lure retriever. I've been amazed. I use that Tim Horton money pole. That's a telescopic lure retriever, and it's always been great for crankbaits. But let's face it, when you were saving a crankbait, you saved $5. Now you're getting one of these lures retrieved. It's $20 every time you get one loose. So, guys can go check that out at timhortonmoneypole.com. But that's the biggest tip I would give on using the umbrella rig, umbrella style baits.
Sounds good. There's a lot of guys out there that may be transitioning from fishing bass club events where you have maybe at the most 20 or 30 guys at the most in the competition, and they're typically half those guys might not be as serious about it and hardcore. If someone's going to transition from something like that to BFL or as a boater or something like that, what kind of maybe 3 tips you can give them to keep everything in perspective with the number of guys they're fishing with and stuff like that?
You know, I would say it's always you against the fish, regardless if you're competing in the Bassmasters Classic or if you're competing in a little weekend tournament with your buddies at home. You know, and I think if you keep that mindset that you always want to go and catch the most weight you can, regardless of what event you're in. Number 2, you know, I get asked about people stepping up and how do you do it for a living. You know, worry about the fishing. You know, the sponsorship and all of that takes care of itself. And a big thing about a tournament that has more anglers in it is don't be afraid to fish behind somebody. You know, go do something a little different. You know, tell yourself that I'm going to out-technique them. And what I mean by that is your presentation with the lures you're using and the cast that you're making.
Excellent. That was a great tip. Now, what kind of things do you do during the off season, you know, during the fall and winter months to get ready for the next season and stuff? Not only for your health, you know, getting built back up, but also keeping your cast and all your mental things ready for new techniques and stuff.
One thing that's been a big help to me is my television show with Timmy Horton Outdoors. I know I've fished more this fall and winter than I have in recent years, and I think that's going to be a big boost for me. As I've gotten older, I turned 40 this year, so nutrition has been a big part of what I do. I learned about a company that I work with, Advocare, several years ago, and I actually do it as a business also. And I take their meal replacement shakes, and I take their Spark energy drink, and that's been a big part of what I've done. You know, when I got on that program several years ago, I've really seen, you know, my fishing jump, had several top 10s in a row, and I think that has a lot to do with your mindset, and how you feel has to do with how hard you're going to work and how you practice. So proper nutrition has been a big part of it.
All right. Are you the type of guy that thinks about the Classic weight and stuff like that? What is your prediction for the Classic this year?
You know, I think it's probably going to take about 62 to 64 pounds to win for 3 days, slightly over 20 a day. They get some bad weather come in, that could go 17, 18 a day, but I'm thinking somewhere in the 60-pound range.
All right, and how's the weather going to line up as far as the days of competition and practice? How's that working out?
It looks like it's going to go pretty good. I looked at it this morning, and it looks like they're going to have some decent weather. So
that's good. Any predictions of certain patterns? You think that a lot of them are going to be pretty small?
I think you're going to see jerk baits, rattling rogues, those type deals are going to be strong. And I also think you could see some finesse tactics being good too.
Always finesse is an option. What's a new bait that you're really excited about using this year on Elite Series?
Let's see. I would probably. I'd probably say that new BD8, that new deep diving fat-free shad. It's probably one that jumps out to you.
All right. What were some defining moments in your fishing career that really put it over the top? Maybe certain victories and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would probably say my first win on the Potomac River really jumps out. That was the year I won Angler of the Year, and that whole season really catapulted me into being able to do it as a career. You know, once you get a title like that, it really, you know, as the saying goes, and you can ask this from any elite pro, is, you know, anglers can kind of look up and fall into a win by finding a good place, but you don't look up and win Angler of the Year, you know, and probably just from the respect factor of the other anglers and what that title means, that was probably my most proud accomplishment.
Are there any things that you're, especially with working pro patterns or exposure, are there any certain things that you're working on, not just technique-wise, but maybe ways that you approach lakes that maybe you're looking into just a little different this year?
You know, I think that's the neatest thing about Exposed, and in the feedback that we've gotten, is how all of those pros practice different. And they've even been intrigued by watching it. I know, you know, when we hear about, you know, certain anglers watching those practice days and seeing how guys go about them. But the big thing for me is just work hard. You know, I can sleep well at night if I have a tough tournament, if I know I gave it everything I had. And that's my biggest deal, just getting up at daylight and going till, you know, late in the evening. So.
All right. What's the strangest thing you've ever caught while fishing?
Strangest thing I've ever caught, man. I've caught some crazy stuff. Turtles. Let me think what jumps out at me. You know, we were fishing a Legends tournament at the Disney Lakes several years ago that Tracker Marine had put on, And at the end of the day, I thought I hooked this giant bass, and it was just a huge snapping turtle. And I mean, this thing was a big one. And that's probably one of the craziest things I've ever caught.
What is your favorite time to fish your home lakes, Guntersville and Pickwick? Time of the year, just maybe for big fish, whatever's funnest for you, brings back memories.
Probably March and April is about as good as it gets. Late February can be pretty awesome too. And then the fall of the year, man, October, November, all the way through Thanksgiving is really good also.
What's maybe the scariest moment you've ever had on the water?
Scariest moment on the water. We were at Chicago practicing for the Bassmasters Classic several years ago, and I had some bullets sprayed pretty close to me, and I think it was just from a random kids playing shooting or whatever, but that was pretty spooky.
Yeah, I hear that. What's maybe your least favorite technique or something you've really been working on improving lately?
Man, anytime we have low weight tournaments, I struggle with that. I guess I'm always trying to find the mother lode somewhere, but that's probably something I need to work on is to be patient and know that it's okay to catch 7 or 8 pounds if that's what it's going to take to do well in a tournament.
What about like drop shotting in like 40 to 60 foot of water, something on like on a Lake Lanier or something?
Yeah, I like that. I like, we do that pattern at Table Rock a lot, and I like that vertical fishing like that. But finesse fishing, I like the big stuff. I like the Bubba stuff, as we call it. That's just my favorite way to fish. So.
All right. For the upcoming anglers that are just really set on improving themselves and getting up there to be at your level one day, Coangler versus boater, pros and cons.
I think early on, Coangler is so important, especially if budget-wise that fits in for a pro to be able to get out on the water, see what these guys are doing. Once you start getting to where, hey, I want to do this for a living, you need to be moving over to the boater side, fishing in some tournaments, and getting some confidence in what you're doing, because that's really the key. And then again, what we talked about earlier on that Exposed series, there's not a better learning technique for guys, whether you're co-angler or boater, to learn what these guys are doing on the practice days.
You got any tips about places like Toledo Bend or some of the river things where you have large stump flats? How can you dissect something like that and be efficient and productive?
I think every lake is different. Toledo Bend and the lakes that have a lot of timber in it, ironically, the fish really relate to the vegetation more, on a lake like Toledo Bend that has it. Now, when you have lakes that's all you've got, like a Lake Eufaula, it has periods where it has grass, and then it has periods where it don't have grass. And when there's no vegetation in it, they're going to relate to it. But cover is cover, and a bass is going to use it.
All right. One last question to finish this out. There's been some scholarships to collegiate anglers been offered out, and it's starting to get out there a little more in the collegiate fishing itself. What are your thoughts on mainstream scholarships
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it's awesome. I think where our sport is headed with the youth movement, with both high school and college events happening, and with colleges giving scholarships out now, man, it's as cool as it gets. To be a kid and enjoy the sport of bass fishing, there's not a better time in our history of the sport.
All right, Timmy, well, we want to thank you for hanging out here at the Bass Pro Shops and getting to talk to everybody and doing this interview for us so all these other guys can enjoy what you have to say. Thank you.
Glad to do it.